Welcome, everyone. Welcome to 2U. Please rise in body and or spirit for our opening hymn, 1010, We Give Thanks, in the teal hymnal. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this food we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Be seated. And if you're realizing you can't be seated, there are plenty of chairs still at this very front, everyone's favorite place to sit. You are going to notice this morning, those of you who have been here for a while, that our liturgy is shifting a little bit, by which I mean the order of service, the way things flow. And you will notice that we have all the same components of the service. They're just organized in a little different way. There's one thing, though, that's gone: announcements from the pulpit. I know some of you are thinking to yourself, how will we ever know what's going on at church without announcements from the pulpit? And there are a couple of different ways. One, your order of service, which is extensive and has lots of information in it. You will find announcements every week right in there. Additionally, Brandon brilliantly has come up with a bulletin board for us that's in the Palma room that has all the announcements for what's happening each Sunday and what's happening for the week coming up. So all the key announcements that you're going to need right away. And so others of you are thinking, yes, no more announcements. And I'm excited for you and the rest of you. I promise you'll be okay. We're gonna get through it together. Other things you'll notice is just that we are trying these things out because we want to see what it's like to flow a little bit differently. And there's a worship, through the worship support team, we have a liturgy review team that's trying these things out to see what it might be like. And so we're going to try this out for a few weeks, see what you think. And if we need to make changes again, we'll do that. And if we need to make even bigger changes as we move forward, we'll do that as well. And so with that, Sean Connolly, please.
Good morning. My name is Sean Conley. I'm a member of the music committee, and my pronouns are he, him. Today, we are in person at the Admiral at the Lake, the 2U Sanctuary, and continuing to meet virtually using Zoom. We're glad you're here, whichever way you are attending. If you're in the sanctuary and would benefit from hearing assistance, we have devices available with noise-canceling headphones for both adults and children with noise sensitivities. Please see our tech team in the back if you need any of those devices or help. As we navigate varying health needs and health and wellness, particularly related to COVID, we welcome you to wear a mask. We have masks available at the table in the back as you enter the building. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we're excited to have you here and look forward to getting to know you. If you would like, there are blue mugs available during coffee hour that you can use to signal to others that you would like them to come up and say hello. They also hold more coffee, so it's a win-win. If you're not sure what to say, the Drum Allies group has come up with a question each week to help spark conversation. You can find the question posted on the coffee hour table. Additionally, we always need people in the kitchen after coffee hour, and that's a great place to see old friends and make new ones while lending a helping hand. Our worship today is led by Reverend Jason Lydon, along with Karen Golder as worship associate. Music is provided by Tice Brozlovsky and Abigail Klein. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, and the technical production. You can find many announcements about what is going on in our church in your order of service or on the bulletin board. We encourage you to take the order of service home with you. Put it on your fridge, note it all week, take it with you. As we greet our neighbor, it is vital that we do this with the utmost focus on consent and comfortability. Whatever method of greeting you do, please ask the other person if they feel comfortable with that same level of contact. This is the time to take a moment and greet your neighbors.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, where we keep love at the center. Whether you are joining us for the first time or the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, when you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. And now rise in body or spirit and join in singing our congregational hymn, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Please remain risen, and for those of you in the back, we do have some seats in the front. And please join me in reciting our covenant. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
You can be seated. In just a moment, Zella here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. We light our chalices this morning with these words from the Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Welcome all those who seek renewal in a weary world. Welcome all who come with love and energy to share. Welcome to those who worry for the future. Welcome each one who is grateful for today. Know that in this place you are not alone. In community, we share our strength and with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright. Know that in this place, responsibility is shared. Here, tradition holds us. Ancestors shine a light from the past. Here, the young lift their bright faces and beckon us forward. Take my hand, and we can go on together. Let us hear our musical meditation.
I would like to invite all the young and young at heart to come up for a story concerning interdependence. Story's called If You Take Away the Otter. On the Pacific coast of North America, where the ocean meets the shore, there are forests that have no trees. These forests are not on land. They are ocean forests, forests of kelp. Kelp is a large marine algae or seaweed. The kelp acts as the trees in these forests. It clings to the rocks at the bottom of the ocean and grows up toward the surface, sometimes reaching more than 100 feet tall. In between and under towering kelp, smaller seaweeds grow alongside many different kinds of animals. Kelp forests are full of living things. Yep. Abalones, clams, sea stars, and octopus, feathery sea worms, and swarms of tiny swimming shrimp live in these forests. Crabs scuttle and snails slink up and down the kelp blades. Spiny sea urchins creep about on tiny tube feet. And swimming around all are fish, shy kelpfish, big-eyed rockfish, and bright spotted greenlings. Schools of sliver herrings and striped mackerel lay their eggs in the forests. Sea lions and bald eagles fish these forests for their suppers. But the king of these forests, the hungriest hunter, is the sea otters. Otters dive into the deep and fill their bellies with fish and clams, snails and crabs, abalones and octopus, and the prickly, spiny sea urchins. All living things in these forests are connected. The kelp and other seaweeds make homes and shelter for the animals. They provide food too. Animals like abalones, snails, and sea urchins eat the kelp and seaweed, and some animals, like sea otters, eat other animals. There is just enough seaweed eaters, and enough meat eaters to help the forest thrive. But there was a time when people took the otters away. Indigenous people had lived alongside otters for thousands and thousands of years, but then new people came to this coast. They wanted the sea otter's fur, which was thick and soft and the warmest of warm. They wanted to sell it around the world. They took more and more hunting of the otters until almost all the otters were gone. People do not always understand at first the changes they cause when they take too much. When they took the otters away, the kelp forest began to change. Without the otters to hunt the urchins, more urchins stayed alive each year. Those urchins made more and more urchins than had lived in the forest before. An army of urchins, and it takes a lot of food to feed an army. The urchin army crept along the ocean floor looking for its seaweed food. They ate the small seaweeds. They ate the kelp where it clung to the rocky bottom. One by one, the kelp was cut down. Kelp by kelp, ocean forests fell. Gone were the strands of towering kelp and the shelter and the food they gave. Gone were the homes for kelp forest fish and the safe hiding places for their babies and eggs. People do not always know at first why changes are happening beneath the waves. But they could see that the otters were becoming harder and harder to find, and that made people worry that the otters could disappear forever. So they made new laws to protect the few otters that were left. And slowly, slowly, the otters began to come back. And the otters, those hungry hunters, attacked and ate urchin armies. With fewer urchins creeping around, new kelp could once again grow tall, dancing in the waves. Where the otters have come back, so have kelp forests. When people protected the sea otters, they protected the forests. Those forests are home again for crabs and snails, sea worms and shrimp. They make safe places for the fish and their eggs. There is food for the seaweed eaters. There is food for the hunters. There is just enough of everything to help keep the kelp forests and all that depend on them thrive. And that's it. And this just one example of interdependence. It can be anything like at our beaches here, we provide spaces for migratory birds. You may have heard that McCormick Place has put some stuff on the windows to keep the migratory birds. That deals with interdependence too. So.
Now please join us in singing our young people off to their classes. I could look at pictures of otters all day long. They're just so cute. I wish I wore my otter socks today. That would have been appropriate. So each year, all of us as members of this church, we make a pledge, a commitment to support the ministry of this, our congregation. In addition to this pledge that we make year after year, we also take a collection on Sunday mornings so that we can share with those who are doing justice work beyond our walls. In just a moment, you will see a phone number on your screen where you can do a text to give, or for those of you who are in the 2U sanctuary, we will pass around a plate into which you can put your change or cash or checks. For the month of January, we've been sharing our plate with the Rainbow Railroad, an organization supporting LGBT refugees trying to resettle in the US, a project that we are seeing some terrible changes to under the current administration. And the work for which we have been supporting, we will learn more in the weeks and months to come how that will transform. On the last Sunday of every month, though, we hear from somebody in our congregation who is doing ministry or work to support our church, and we have words this morning from Sean Connolly.
Hello again, I'm Sean. So I'm here as part of the music committee, and I just have a couple notes. If you're curious about the music committee, we help do anything musical in this building or in our community. And as the construction's been going on, we've been kind of planning and hoping once that's done to get a little bit more things happening. If you remember last March, we had Ronnie Malley perform here. We did a fundraiser for the PCRF. It was super cool. We're waiting, once the construction is done, we're hoping to start planning for as early as this fall in the next church year, a concert series in the building. Maybe 3 to start the first year or 4, that we can kind of bring different artists in, bring different folks into the community, use this gorgeous space to help give back spots for musical artists and different types of artists who may not have a venue and may not have a spot to go. So if that sounds cool to you, please come and join our committee. We meet the second Sunday right after church. Sometimes we meet in the library, but when it's very cold, we meet in the loft. So just meet one of us at coffee hour. I'm in it. Carl, who's usually here, you can talk to either of us. Gail, Jennifer's here. If you know them, you can talk to them. Or you can just email music@secondunitarian.org. We've been talking about doing like an open mic thing or a salon, whatever. We're looking for members. So if you've got an idea, you do not need to be in the choir. You don't need to play an instrument. But if you are in the choir or are a professional musician and don't want that to be your job here, or if you're looking to do your music here, please consider joining us. We really could use some more members. So find me after coffee hour or anytime, and we'd love to have you. So thank you so much.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I want to invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation. Let's begin by breathing together. There is so much noise in our lives, so much talking, listening to sounds. Let us take a moment to relish in quiet. We begin always in thanks. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this, our beloved community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We're with you. For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we're with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, for immigrants and refugees who are fleeing and seeking, finding new homes in our city amongst many. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way. Pray for our planet and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate chaos. As we continue to navigate violence around our world, genocides and war, we pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are truly blessed by those who are encountering the final stages of life. We offer prayers of comfort and care, knowing this journey is far from easy. Into this, our shared silence across space, I invite you now to speak aloud the names of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of this community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen and blessed be. During our ritual of lighting candles for joys and concerns, we want to continue to take care of one another and our own bodies. In the 2U sanctuary, in a moment, I will invite you forward to light a candle, and as you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer that's available. For those at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward, take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly in your hand, putting your energy into that stone, and then knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. And for those of us on Zoom, please join by sharing your celebrations and sorrows in our chat window. Behold, all of these are shared joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows close to our hearts. Karen, would you share our first reading, please?
Our first reading this morning is entitled, "We Are One" by Reverend Karen Anderson. Perhaps if I could pull my senses back to the scraping squeak of the window opening that welcomes the pastor's chorus of peepers into my room, whose resonant tones glide over my bedsheet and mental haze, I remember to listen to my amphibian friend's primordial call, "We are one, we are one, we are one." Perhaps if I could recall the rapid thrum of the 9 hummingbirds' beating wings, whipping in and out around the feeder with a thrum, thrum, thrum. One cold Montana morning in May, I'd remember that my heartbeats synced with metronomic ease to their tiny thrumming selves, again calling, "We are one, we are one, we are one." Perhaps if I could be real still and lay my body on the syrupy mud along the creek behind the wood, I could hear the ferns unfurl in unison and the roots of the poplar stretch toward the spring. I'd remember that the universe sings a song to us each minute of every hour, of every day, of every year. We are one, we are one, we are one. Perhaps if I made it a priority to listen to that siren song, I'd ask the right questions and make the right statements and return to the communion of creatures of which I am a part. The truth is, we make this planet about us and only us. And when we do, the earth calls our separate selves back, singing, "Ask yourself, you beautiful, thoughtful, gorgeous species, how much of the planet are you really entitled to? How much of the planet are you really entitled to?" And with the peepers and the hummingbirds and the ferns and the roots, I would respond, "We are one, we are one, we are one."
Thank you, Karen. My favorite line, "Ask yourself, you beautiful, thoughtful, gorgeous species." It's about you. Our second reading is entitled "Belonging" by Rosemary Watola Tromer. And if it's true we are alone together. The way blades of grass are alone but exist as a field. Sometimes I feel it, the green fuse that ignites us, the wild thrum that unites us, the inner hum that reminds us of our shared humanity. Just as 35 trillion red blood cells join in one body to become one blood, just as 136,000 notes make up one symphony, alone as we are, our small voices weave into one big conversation. Our actions are essential to the one infinite story of what it is to be alive. When we feel alone, we belong to the grand communion of those who sometimes feel alone. We are the dust that hopes a rising of dust, a thrill of dust, the dust that dances in the light with all other dust, the dust that makes the world. Let us hear our anthem.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind, there find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined, like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who joy in love expanding. The message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings, in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth, ever giving. And now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living, for the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly defined. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart, to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
Thank you, Abigail. What a blessing to hear your voice this morning. I love our faith. Unitarian Universalism has shaped who I am since I was a child. Attending religious education classes, participating in youth conferences, going to seminary school, and serving multiple congregations. It's been an overwhelming blessing to be a Unitarian Universalist. I love the exploration of other religious traditions, our affirmation of pluralism, which we talked about just a couple weeks ago. It is such a beautiful part of what makes our faith what it is. We're constantly learning together. Without Unitarian Universalism, I do not know what my commitment to justice would look like. I remember being taught that my Unitarian Universalism called me to engage in the world as it is and to do the necessary work to create the world we dream of, one rooted in liberation for all people. I've been spiritually fulfilled by our faith and have laughed countless times with people throughout our faith communities, Some of the most profound relationships in my life are with people I met through Unitarian Universalism. My best friend in the whole world, Megan, who some of you know from her time as a member at 2U years ago, she and I first met at a conference in Virginia 25 years ago. This faith, it means so much to me, and I am endlessly grateful. And my gratitude continues when I think about the ways that you trust me to hold some of the hardest moments in your life. My most favorite part of this job is the time I spend with many of you, one-on-one, just getting to know more about you and journey with you, not only through some of the hardest moments in life, but to celebrate some of the greatest. This faith is one of great beauty. I wonder if you're thinking that there is "and yet" coming here. I wonder if you have your own, "Yes, Reverend Jason, I agree with you, and..." Well, you're right. Unitarian Universalism, as profoundly beautiful as it is, one of the things I really struggle with within our faith is that we have an individualism problem. I was recently talking with one of your sibling congregants, and this individualism was such a big part of what we discussed. Why do we, as a people of faith, struggle with so much inward focus and lack of connection at times to one another and the larger world around us? I wonder if it's something you've noticed. How does our worship structure and way of being together on Sunday mornings perpetuate this dynamic? While the new changes in our liturgy will not likely solve this issue, the intention is to design a worship experience that is more spiritually fulfilling and flows in a way that keeps us grounded in our time together, knowing that we are sharing something meaningful. You choose week after week, or for the first time, to come and worship in community, to be together. Our New England Unitarian ancestors, they're the problem. Absolutely. Want to blame someone? Blame them. That said, in an effort to celebrate the individual's right of conscious and theological exploration, these white Puritan ancestors, they took things a little too far. But I'm not completely interested in chastising our ancestors. They were truly creating a subversive tradition that resisted a top-down theology that told everyone what to believe. And there is great beauty in that. The flip side, the shadow side, is that sometimes we can get lost in our individual selves. Our personal exploration can happen at the expense of developing deep relationships with those around us and a sense of wonder. Do we lose it sometimes? Wonder about this universe we're connected to, the otters that we're connected to. Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Danielle Weber, wrote in a 2017 sermon, "If we could realize that it is not our individuality, but our interdependentness that will allow us to grow and flourish into the best that we can be, what would it look like? And then what would it look like if we could forgive ourselves and each other when we don't always live into that unity?" It is this forgiveness of ourselves that I'm quite curious about. Our individualism is not something that deserves a pointing of fingers, blaming or shaming, except of our New England ancestors. Instead, our awareness about it can welcome us to try on different ways of being together that truly celebrate our interdependent existence. That said, I do and invite you, if you can, at times to forgive for this, some of our religious ancestry, for they know sometimes not what they do. And I want to forgive myself. I want to forgive Unitarian Universalism. I want to embrace this forgiveness because I know for certain, we can transform, be transformed, and do better. We are talking about interdependence this morning because it's one of our clearly articulated, evolved values that our General Assembly affirmed last summer. You'll see it in the flower of values in your order of service. All 6 of the affirmed values are there with love at the center. We print it in your order of service week after week. One of the things that Unitarian Universalists love, and a challenge, to be honest, that we'll deal with another day, but one of the things that we love is words. And my goodness, do we love words. And as a preacher, and I've told this before, I understand this love of words because I say a lot of them and a lot of them up here with you. And I want to say that the words accompanying this evolved value in our Article 2 of the UUA, I'm pretty into them. It goes like this. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care, respect, mutuality, and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. The first sentence will sound very familiar to some of you. It is essentially the words of our 7th principle that we affirmed for decades. And also, it's different. Now we're talking about reverence. We're talking about humility. We're talking about exploitation and sustainability. We're talking about repair. All of these pieces inspire me. While an over-reliance on words can be problematic at moments, a clear articulation of our covenant, that's really important to me. Because Sunday after Sunday, we, in our church, we read our congregational covenant together. And it is not particularly short, and I love each word of it. It's intentional. It's thoughtful. It invites us into deeper relationship with one another because covenants are promises. Promises, they need to be clear. When it comes to the weddings I officiate, I often encourage those getting married to create their vows together. Don't surprise one another necessarily at the altar. Communicate. And no offense to anybody who did that. I'll love. But instead, I encourage folks to communicate with one another about what it is that they are promising each other. Because the vow is a covenant. It's a promise of relationship. It is something that can be returned to time and time again for the purpose of accountability and repair when covenants are violated. Theologian Martin Buber reminds us that as humans, we are a promise-making, promise-breaking, promise-renewing creature. What could be a greater acknowledgement of our interdependence than to celebrate the complex and meaningful ways that we relate to one another? The value of interdependence is in many ways seen as our commitment to the world around us, beyond our human family. It's a promise to embrace a shared knowing that what happens to the earth, it happens to each of us. The fires in California certainly remind us of this. The devastation, the destruction, the great harms of climate chaos, it highlights the ways our human family impacts our beautiful and broken world. And it's not just about the harm we cause our earth, though. It's not just about protection from exploitation. Celebrating our interdependence with all existence means we get to learn from every corner of life, from the otters and the sea urchins. Our learnings are not just from the words that humans speak, but the way the earth works and spins. The ecosystems we are connected to teach us that we are absolutely interconnected and that individualism is not just harmful, it's a myth. We do not exist on our own. We exist together, as Dr. King says, in an inescapable network of mutuality. When we pull on one thread, we see the full fabric of life. Our responsibility is not to unravel it, but to notice it, honor it, approach it with love. Indigenous scientist and author Robin Wall Kimmerer gives many examples of the ways we are connected with the world around us in her writing. She tells story after story about our collective consciousness, our beloved connection to the sacredness of all life. Very importantly, she tells us stories that help us to learn about the solidarity of existence. I want to share one of these learnings with you that she's written. Scientists are interested, she writes, in how the marriage of algae and fungus occurs. And so they've tried to identify the factors that induce two species to live as one. But when researchers put the two together in the laboratory and provide them with ideal conditions for both the algae and fungus, they give each other the cold shoulder and proceed to live separate lives in the same culture dish, like the most platonic of roommates. The scientists were puzzled and began to tinker with the habitat, altering one factor and then another, but still no lichen. It was only when they severely curtailed the resources, when they created harsh and stressful conditions, that the two would turn towards each other and begin to cooperate. Only with severe need did they curl together. Only when the algae was stressed did it welcome the advances. When times are easy, she continues, there's plenty to go around. Individual species can go it alone. But when conditions are harsh and life is tenuous, it takes a team sworn to reciprocity to keep life going forward. In a world of scarcity, interconnection and mutual aid become critical for survival. We are in a vital moment of recognizing our interconnectedness. I would say our attendance at church lately highlights that. One of my favorite protest chants goes like this: when LGBT people are under attack, what do? Rise up, fight back. Or when immigrants are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. It doesn't matter if we identify as LGBT, immigrant, Palestinian, union workers, or any other group of people who might be under attack. We have the ability and responsibility to rise up and act. It is our interconnectedness, our commitment to mutual aid that is, as Kimmerer writes, critical for survival. We are these creatures, these organisms wrapping around each other. That said, I would suggest that we need not only find ourselves in deep stress to connect to one another. Maybe part of our learning from this story is to see how we as humans, maybe we're a little bit different than these organisms, and that's okay. We need each other in the good times just as much as we need each other in the hardest of times. We need each other when everything feels in balance, just as we need one another when things feel chaotic and scary. This truth reminds me of words from the Bishop Desmond Tutu. Bishop Tutu writes, "One of the sayings in our country is Ubuntu, the essence of being human." Ubuntu speaks particularly about the fact that you can't exist as a human being in isolation. It speaks about our interconnectedness. You can't be human all by yourself. And when you have this quality, Ubuntu, you are known for your generosity. We think of ourselves far too frequently as just individuals separated from one another, whereas you are connected, and what you do affects the whole world. When you do well, it spreads out. It is for the whole of humanity. Unitarian Universalism might have a problem with individualism, but we do not have this problem in isolation. It's one that surrounds us. Individualistic ideas are the water we swim in. We're told that our success depends on pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and succeeding on our own. We celebrate independence over interdependence. We celebrate individual achievements over the collective. We have, and I've noticed this, I'm not a big sports person, but we have most valuable player even when there's a whole team that is accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. It's our responsibility to break free from this. Our worship services need to help us do this. As a person from our congregation I was talking with last week noted, we need to be sure that week after week we feel connected to one another and that we have something to hold on to until we come together once again. And this, beloveds, this is not my responsibility alone. This is not only the responsibility of the worship support team, this is your responsibility. One of the ways we can feel connected to one another is when we raise our voices in song. Your voice reverberates in this space, creating a collective sound. Time after time after time after time, I encourage you to move your bodies. And while today's closing hymn might not be the easiest to dance to, think about how your body is connected to your neighbor. Because our world is indeed one world. What impacts you impacts me. We have the capacity to build bridges rather than walls. We can show one another that we matter, that we are like tiny organisms surviving together, that we understand the concept of Ubuntu, that we belong to one another and to the interconnectedness of all existence. Let it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 134, Our World is One World.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all.
rest your hands upon your heart, or clasp hands with those you're sharing your life with, and hear these words of benediction adapted from Reverend Gretchen Haley. We're going forth to do the work of hope, remembering the past, remembering ourselves, imagining our most possible future for this life that teeters too often on the edge of forgetting. We belong to each other. We belong to each other. Go in peace, beloveds.